Coming to you live from the John Hammond Street. Good morning and welcome to the morning news here on TV3. I am Godwin Asidba. The headlines. With just 7 years to the deadline of the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, only 15% of the 17 targets are on track. 5 persons arrested for staging a march at Diabene in the Western region in support of Russia mercenary group Wagner to reappear in court next month. Electoral Commission denies sending defective registration gadgets to opposition National Democratic Congress strongholds to disenfranchise its supporters and limited voter registration. Later on the international front, about 10% of known Libya flood deaths were migrants, according to the International Organization of Migration. We have details of these and other stories coming your way in the next 20 minutes. Do find this news on DSTV channel 279. We are streaming across the world on Facebook at TV3 Ghana. Your thoughts and comments are welcomed. Good morning. My name is Godwin Asidba. We take the details now. The Electoral Commission has denied sending defective registration gadgets to opposition NDC stronghold to disenfranchise its supporters in the limited voter registration. Chairperson Jean Mensah also denied ever being served with any injunction suit from the courts to warrant the postponement of the exercise.
Days of the ongoing registration, the Electoral Commission says it has been able to put over 183,000 persons onto the country's electoral roll. The process, which started on Tuesday last week, was fraught with challenges which the opposition NDC largely asserted to as orchestrated, aimed at disenfranchising first-time voters, particularly in its stronghold. Chairperson of the Commission, Jean Mensah, says any such claims cannot be true.
The allegations being made against us, including accusations of our working to disenfranchise eligible voters, to sending faulty kits to the stronghold of a specific political party, are false. A number of districts reported having faulty kits on the first 2 days. These kits were not located only in the stronghold of a particular political party, and the evidence is there for all to verify.
On arguments by the former President John Mahama that perhaps the guarantor system is still quite the best way in registering persons onto the electoral roll, the Electoral Commission cited instances or media reports of minors being registered onto the electoral roll.
We are mindful of the fact that the National Identification Authority had some budgetary constraints and they were not able to register for a while. And we are also well aware that over the last 2 weeks, they've kick-started their activities in the districts and they are registering persons who have turned, I think, 15 years above in the districts.
On the injunction application, the EC said it was not served.
As we speak, the Commission did not become privy to that documentation or that service, that writ, until Wednesday, because on Monday the Commission was on the field, and on Tuesday we were on the field, and it was only Wednesday after the exercise that we became privy to that service. We've known for a long time that we had registration. Why wait till a day before the exercise to serve on a Friday when there's a lot of field activity going on?
Eric Mawina Egbeta, TV3 News, headquarters of the Electoral Commission.
Join me to New York now. With just 7 years to the deadline of the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, only 15% of the 17 targets are on track. The UN Secretary General described the development as worrying, warning the world could miss the chance to save the planet and attain inclusive growth. Antonio Guterres made the remarks at the opening of the SDG Summit in New York.
Not even the heavy downpour in the early hours of Monday could stop the SDG Summit. Just as delegates came out in their numbers, so were climate campaigners protesting a few meters from the UN headquarters. Inside the Assembly Hall, Delegates were taken through the consequences of their inactions, but also how they could be reversed.
The SDGs aren't just a list of goals. They carry the hopes, dreams, rights, and expectations of people everywhere. And they provide the surest path to living up to our obligations under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, now in its 75th year. Yet today, only 15% of the targets are on track, and many are going in reverse. Instead of leaving no one behind, we risk leaving the SDGs behind.
On the lawn of the United Nations headquarters, these pavilions inscribed with the 17 targets have been set up to remind delegates of the need to ensure inclusive development. But the world is far from achieving the goals inscribed on the pavilions. The United Nations attributed to the COVID-19 pandemic, the conflict we've seen around the world, and of course, the rising geopolitical tensions. However, analysts believe it is just a lack of commitment.
The fact that we are lagging in our promise cannot be the death knell of our blueprint, nor should this summit be a forum to point fingers, apportion blame, and certainly not to accept defeat. Instead, bold and transformative actions must be prioritized to support the well-being of our global constituents, particularly those left farthest behind.
While many expect the high-level week to renew hope in achieving the SDGs, others fear the geopolitical tensions and the war in Ukraine would bury the SDG conversations. Sani Abdurrahman, TV3 News, United Nations.
Back to Ghana, some 40 inspectors in the Ghana Police Service have sued the Inspector General of Police, George Ekufu-Dampare, over what they describe as refusal of the service to promote them. In a writ filed at the High Court in Kumasi, the police officers claim they have been excluded from series of promotion promoted by the service to grant special amnesty to police officers who had obtained degrees before 2020 after they were enrolled into the service. It is their case that despite serving between 25 to 30 years, the police administration have promoted their junior colleagues under the same amnesty, but had refused to grant them entry to the police academy to facilitate their promotions to Assistant Superintendent of Police ASP. The 40 plaintiffs per the writ are urging the court to order the IGP and the other defendants to promote them, grant them direct access to the police academy, and further restore their lost income following the failure to promote them. Away from that, 5 persons arrested for staging a march at the Abene in the Western region in support of Russia mercenary group Wagner are to reappear in court next month. The suspects charged with treason are currently in police custody in Takoradi.
And to have them operating on our northern border is particularly distressing for us in Ghana.
President Akufo-Addo some months ago raising concerns about activities of Russia mercenary group Wagner in neighboring Burkina Faso. Months down the line, latest investigation by Ghana Fact has revealed detailed infiltration of the mercenary group into the country. Through a series of social media platforms, contact was established with one Michael Esiedu, an administrator of Mercado News, a Facebook blog with 1,500 followers that publishes pro-Russian content. Managing editor at Ghana Fact, Rabiu Al-Hassan, explains further the connection.
As part of the investigations, we chanced on a Telegram channel that also exposed the modus operandi of the group, which involved some funding of their activities, some wire transfers to the ringleaders via Western Union. In total, we understand through some crowdfunding, they were able to raise about $6,000, which was used in executing the protest. Even beyond that, we've seen receipts of some T-shirts that were procured, and you could see in some videos and some pictures of the Ghanaians wearing them, and the receipts, about 50,000 Ghana cedis, were used in procuring the t-shirts, and on it you see Wagner. You could also see that there were some flags that were procured online and sent through the Russian embassy to be received by the organizers in Ghana.
That coming together resulted in an August 13 march at Diabene Park in Takoradi in support of Russia.
Since then, we've heard the Ghana Police Service has picked up the 3 ringleaders. 2 others who went to visit them have also been picked up, so 5 of them. And we understand they've been charged with trying to undermine the government of Ghana, and have been facilitated and processed for court. They're supposed to reappear in court on October 3.
Meanwhile, security analyst Dr. Adam Bona has emphasized that the infiltration of Wagner forces into Ghana's territory should not be treated as an isolated case. He has called on the security agencies to intensify their surveillance efforts in dealing with the potential threats that this infiltration might pose.
Treat it as an isolated case. You remember, we are surrounded by very hostile countries. You have Burkina Faso, you have, you can mention them. Recently, we've had Niger. You can talk about Mali, and the Wagner Group is everywhere in most of these countries. And so, as far as I'm concerned, we cannot wish this away and say, let's treat it with the contempt it deserves, or let's say it's an isolation. No, it is not. What we need to do, rather, is to ensure that we can go to the source of this infiltration. How deep is the infiltration? And we know, I mean, for all you know, the Wagner Group might already be here, because usually what they do, they like resource-rich countries, and you know what the devastation we've seen when it comes to Galamsey. And some of these Galamsey go to, is it dollar power or so? Go and find out you have a lot of West African nationals who are mining our mineral resources with impunity. So do we already have them here? Because then that is their modus operandi, to come in and destabilize, be able to have a hold on your mineral resources. Okay. So I think it's something we should not just treat as an isolation.
You're still watching the morning news with me, Godwin Asidba. Let's do more stories. The ranking member of the Lands and Forestry Committee, Dr. Abdul Rashid Hassan Pelpo, has raised concerns about the government's fight against illegal mining. The Member of Parliament for Wa Central described the government's efforts so far as lip service.
For several years, Ghanaians have been voicing concerns about the destruction of lands and water bodies through illegal mining, often referred to as Galamsey. The illegal miners have targeted major cocoa-growing communities in the Ashanti, Eastern, Western and Western North regions. Illegal mining activities continue despite the government's efforts to fight the menace. At the just-ended 2023 Africa Climate Summit in Nairobi, Kenya, President Akufo-Addo told delegates the ban on illegal mining in Ghana is yielding positive results.
We placed a ban on illegal mining, the phenomenon we call Galamsey, which was destroying our water bodies, vegetation, and our forests. These policy initiatives are already using positive results to the attainment of the SDG goals, particularly the goal of reducing our carbon emissions.
But the ranking member on the Lands and Forestry Committee, Dr. Hassan Rashid Pelpo, believes the government has not done much to tackle the issue.
A public inquiry on the interministerial report by Professor Frimpong Boateng must be put in place. We need to have a public inquiry into it. We are also asking for the revocation of Environmental Protection Mining in Forest Reserves Regulation 2022 legislative instrument LI 2462, which virtually allows unfettered access to our forest reserves.
He highlighted how individuals, often without proper visas or work permits, enter Ghana and collude with state officials to engage in mining activities.
Community mining is destroying our environment. Given the fact that we have difficulties with monitoring and enforcing the practice, it is only logical that we suspend and eventually remove any attempt of community mining, which is a direct replacement of the Galamsey practices, which is destructive to our environment.
Residents within the Solar and Boiler areas of the Savannah region have appealed to the Roads Ministry to, as a matter of urgency, fix the broken Dollar Bridge. A Saturday dusk and dawn downpour washed away portions of the Boiler Solar Wire Highway, leaving hundreds of commuters stranded. Members of the Pensioner Bondholders Forum have rejected another attempt by government to rope them into the new debt exchange program. They have warned government against any situation that would result in pensioners not receiving their matured coupons and principals on due dates.
The Finance Ministry announced a new program covering holders of ESLA PLC and Dachi Trust bonds. However, Pensioner Bondholders Forum members object, claiming they belong to Category B, those holding eligible bonds exempt from the earlier DDP program.
Under no circumstances should you invite us again that you have reopened something, so we should come, or if we want to come. We are not part of the people who should be invited to this reopening. Once you granted the exemption, it is ended. You have no negotiation to do with those people.
It means that their matured coupons and principals are not going to be paid on time until the settlement date of the new program is due.
We believe the ministry has done something that is irregular. And when we have pointed out to the ministry, they will do the correction and remove the name. Just make a statement that pensioners are not part of this invitation so that they can continue to receive their coupons when due.
According to Dr. Edouard Nanientri, if government wants to add them or include them in the new program, the first exemption needs to be cancelled before a new offer would be brought to the table.
Otherwise, when the coupons are due and we are not paid, we have our way of getting our money back, and that is going to pick it. But we don't want to go there again.
Government launched the Domestic Debt Exchange Program in December 2022 to enhance the country's capacity to meet its debt obligations. Christian Yale, TV3 News, Accra.
Let's do international news now. Migrants make up about 10% of those known to have died when floods hit Libya a week ago. The International Organization of Migration has said Libya is hugely popular with migrants, according to data from the IOM, which is a United Nations body. Over 706,000 migrants lived in the North African country in February 2023. Some live and work in Libya long term, while others use it as a transit point in bids to reach Europe. 400 migrants are registered as having died in the floods, the IOM understands, although it says that this death toll is likely to change as bodies continue to be recovered. That's all for the news this morning. Many thanks for staying with me. My name is Godwin Asidwa. The show continues with Roland Walker and Na Shoko. Good morning.
Well, good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Yeah. Well. That story you read is quite a very complex one.
Yeah, really heartbreaking.
I worked with a man before who had gone to Spain through Libya years ago. I think at the time Colonel Gaddafi was around. Yeah, and went through all the routes that we're talking about, yes. And then ultimately settled in Libya for a number of years. That time Libya was
stable.
Yeah. And it was quite good. I mean, I think they were using dinar or something like that as currency. And it was, I think, even higher than the dollar at the time during the period of Muammar Gaddafi. So he stayed in Libya, was able to use the proceeds or his earnings from his work in Libya before that transit to Europe, and was even able to build a house here
in Ghana
before he went to Spain. Yeah, but it shows that it's been and this matter I'm saying it's about 98. That'll be a very long time.
Not too long ago. 98?
No, 1998. That's when I met the man.
Okay.
Yeah, and at the time he had come back to Ghana. Okay. So had been in Libya, gone to Spain, and had come to Ghana. So It's been something that people have used over the years. But now I think it's the frequency that we should be worried about. And the question too is, why are Africans making that decision to go through this perilous journey, through this uncharted waters of the Mediterranean, just to go and settle in Europe? And all the governments who have all the best Harvard